Well, hello there, folks, and I hope that I find you very well indeed, and a very warm welcome as usual back to What's for Tea and our wee recipe for this week. And these are absolutely amazing. If you like Victoria sponge cake, you will really enjoy these. It's just a very light and fluffy vanilla sponge, as you know, and inside we've got some lovely whipped buttercream and some fruit jam as well. I've used a combination of raspberry and strawberry jam, but you can use obviously whatever you prefer. So I'm just going to run through the recipe for you, and I'll put the recipe on the screen and the ingredients as we go. So this is the tin that I am using here. If you don't have one of these tins, don't worry. You can just use a cupcake tin or even just the one big pan if you prefer. But this is the one that I'm using here. But do make sure it's well lined, or greased even, just to make sure that your cakes are going to come out nice and easily at the end. Or like I said, just use cupcake cases or a cupcake tin. I'm just going to spray my tin with this. Like I said, I wanted to be doubly sure that these were not going to stick. So I've just greased my tin and then lined with some grease-proof paper as well. Now, once you've prepared your tin, you can just set that to the side and we'll get on and do the cake batter. So I'm using my stand mixer, but you can do this by hand, of course, if you don't have one. So I've just got my eggs and I'm just going to mix these up in the bowl to make sure they are nicely combined. Set that aside and we're going to add the butter to the bowl. This is lovely, soft, room temperature butter. You do want nice, soft butter. It's just going to give you a nicer result. So get that into your mixer, get that started, and then to that we're going to add the caster sugar. You can use ordinary white granulated sugar if you don't have any caster sugar. It doesn't make that much of a difference, but you want to mix this for about 5 minutes and it will go lovely and pale and fluffy just like this. But you might want to scrape down your bowl a couple of times just to make sure everything is combining nicely. I usually do this once or twice. If I'm making something like this, it's just going to give you, again, just a nicer end result. If you do take your time with it and do it properly, you'll have a beautiful end result. So you want to add your eggs in 3 different stages. If they are looking like they are curdling at any point, just throw in a teaspoon or 2 of flour and that'll stop that happening. But yeah, in with some of your egg, make sure it's well combined and it's looking nice and fluffy again. And then you can add some more of your egg, combine it again, and then just keep going and adding your egg. But like I said, if you do think it looks curdled, just stop, scrape down your bowl and add a wee bit of flour into your mix. It doesn't make any difference how it looks. It will turn out beautiful in the end. Just keep mixing, like I said, until it's nice and fluffy. I am going to add just a tablespoon of flour into my mix because I did think it was looking a wee bit curdled, and it will go lovely and fluffy again. So get your stand mix paddle out of the way and we're going to pop a sieve on the top and add the dry ingredients. So I'm going to add my plain flour, and then to that I'm also going to add some baking powder. I've got 2 heaped teaspoons of baking powder and then some corn flour as well, and this is going to give them a lovely light fluffy texture. And then just a wee pinch of salt as well, I think is lovely in these kinds of things. Just a wee salty edge. Run that through your sieve to make sure you've got no lumps, and then pop your paddle back on and give that a nice mix just until things are looking nice and smooth again. And I'm going to add my milk in, and this is going to make your mix lovely and loose and ever so silky. So yeah, nice wee tip there. If you think it's looking dry or too thick, just add a wee tablespoon or 2 of milk. Let this combine for about 30 seconds to a minute. You don't want to overwork this because you don't want tough or dry cake. And I'm just going to go around the bowl again just to make sure things are combining nicely. Then I'm going to give it a final 30 seconds on mix just to make sure, again, everything is nicely combined. Then I was happy with this. So the last thing I'm going to do is add in a dash of vanilla because I forgot, I'll be honest, I did forget. So I'm going to add the vanilla now and then just give that a gentle mix together until the vanilla is well combined. Go over to your tin, And you just want to make sure you've got equal amounts of cake batter in each of your cavities. You want this about 3/4 of the way up and as flat as you can get it. It doesn't have to be completely flat because obviously it will find its own level in the oven anyway. So pop this into the middle of your oven, quite a low temperature. So I am using gas mark 4 or 160C in a conventional oven. If you've got a fan assisted oven, you will need to adjust those temperatures and they will come out looking hopefully something like this. You want to let this cool for about 5 minutes in the tin, and then you can get these out of your tin and let them cool completely on a wire rack. Just be very gentle with them because they are very brittle at this stage. Just be very careful when you're peeling your paper away because, like I said, they are very delicate as they are warm and you don't want them just crumbling apart. So pop those onto a wire rack to cool completely, and don't they look fab? I was really happy with these. And then all you have to do next, once they've completely cooled, is split them through the middle, fill them, and then dust these with icing sugar and they will be ready to devour. But yeah, do let these cool completely because you don't want to fill these or top these with icing sugar whilst they're still warm, or things will just go sliding all over the place, and your icing sugar obviously will not stick to the top. So mine's have completely cooled, so I'm going to get on and do the filling. So in a large bowl, I've got my icing sugar, some very soft, almost melted butter, and you can melt this slightly in the microwave just to make sure it's nice and loose. A wee drop of vanilla, another dash of salt, which I think is lovely in a buttercream, and you just want to use a hand whisk or an electric mixer for about 5 minutes until it goes nice and pale and fluffy, just like this. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of whole milk. Again, this is going to make it lovely and velvety and loose, and just so that it comes through my piping bag nice and clean and smooth. So I'm just going to add my buttercream into a piping bag and just put it in a glass just to keep it upright. Makes it easier for filling. Set that to the side for the time being. And for my jam, I'm going to use half raspberry and half strawberry. Just combine them together, give them a quick stir or a quick mix just to make sure they are well combined, and again nice and loose, because we're going to spread this onto 1/2 of your cakes once they are sliced down the middle. So once it's nicely mixed, again just set this to the side for the time being, and then we're just going to slice through the middle of the cakes. I won't show you me doing every single one of these because we would be here all day, and you will get the gist after one. So you can use a serrated knife or a straight edge knife, it's up to you. They do cut really easily, just go nice and slow. Jam on one side and then cream on the other side is my preferred method. Just a wee bit in the middle to hold the top in place. You don't need much, there's plenty on there. Just pop your top on ever so gently and give it a wee squidge down, and that will encourage the jam down onto the cream and give you that lovely Victoria sponge cake appearance. And I'll just do one more just to let you see. So jam on one side and cream on the other, and then just don't go overboard with the jam because you don't want it, flying all over the place. I didn't put any jam on the top of this one, I forgot, but you get the idea. You can play around with these and decorate these however you like, and they are completely cool now. So the last thing I'm going to do is pop some icing sugar on the top just to give you that lovely classic Victoria sponge cake appearance. And these are absolutely delicious, and they are quite big, although they are one portion size. If you split these down the middle, it would be enough for two with a nice cup of tea or coffee. Yeah, they are absolutely fabulous, and these will keep in an airtight container for a good few days, obviously because we're not using fresh cream, although you can use fresh cream, but they won't last as long, obviously, because the fresh cream will go off a lot quicker than what this will. But yeah, do let me know if you're planning on giving these ones a go. They're fabulous, like I said, ever so easy to make. They do take a wee bit of time, but well worth it in my opinion. And a huge thank you as usual to the supporters of the channel over on my Patreon page, to the channel members here on YouTube, for you all for watching, leaving your lovely comments, for sharing the videos or those that have bought me a coffee using the Buy Me a Coffee link or left me a super thanks donation. And I will catch up with you during the week back here on What's for Tea. Take care and bye for now. Bye now.